Stitchers, welcome. You're most welcome here. I am so glad that you're here to join me for another episode of Lit Cat Stitches. My name is Tamara and there are a lot more of you. So let me just do a brief introduction and then we'll get started talking about some of the things that I've worked on in the last week. So since my whip parade, there were quite a few new people who joined, and I just wanted to let you know a little bit about me in case you haven't seen, Flosstube 1 or I think maybe number 4 where I sort of reintroduced myself. So my name is Tamara. I live in New Jersey. I've lived on the East Coast for about 20 years, but I was actually born in Idaho. So I've moved around quite a bit too in between there. So I've lived in the South, lived in the North, I've lived in the West, I've lived in the East. I've been all over the country, and I've settled on the East Coast as my home. I live here with my husband of 14 years and our son, who's going to turn 7 next month. We have 2 dogs and we have a cat. And I work as a project manager in IT for an educational medical university. And it's a really high stress job, so I turn to stitching quite frequently to de-stress. And this week was no different. Work has been very stressful and I find comfort in my stitching. So I realized that last week during the whip parade, there was one whip that I hadn't shared with you because it wasn't on my list yet, and that was my my leap day start, which is a cell that Zook Stitch is running or is joining. I found out about it through her, which is the Hummingbird Garden cell. And this is what it looks like. This is actually in the Just Cross Stitch magazine, and it's going to come out in 4 separate magazine parts. So this is the first portion. This is a design by Carolyn Manning. I haven't stitched a Carolyn Manning before. This is my first go, and it won't be my last. I had a couple of other patterns sort of squirreled away in my stash, but I hadn't yet taken the plunge. And I did a start. I started on Leap Day, and then I worked on it, I think, once or twice since then. I am stitching on 28 count antique white Lugana, and this is my start. I think it looks really nice. I am doing a floss conversion, so the pattern calls for Sullivan's, which I've never stitched before, and I didn't have easy access to. I know you could buy the kit through Annie's? One second. It does say in the magazine, but I wanted to give you the information if I had it. I don't see it here. Maybe I didn't print that page out, but in the magazine it tells you can buy a kit, and it comes with some hummingbird charms if you buy it through the kit. So I don't have those, and I'll probably find something else, or I think you can order them separately. So this is where I've gotten on the first mandala. It's beautiful. The floss I'm using is a conversion to some of the DMC where I had them, but I do have some overdyes here in colors that I didn't have anything close to in my DMC, but I thought these overdyes were pretty close. And it's gorgeous. It's lovely. A lot of color changes, so or a lot of counting, which a lot of times when I'm working on this, it's a little late in the day for all that counting, so I've just been working, but now that I've got to the center, it should be a little bit easier to finish that one. It's gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'll finish within the year, but that's okay. I'm stitching along. The next thing I picked up was Green Coat Santa, which is a pattern from Teresa Kogut. It was in her Patreon. This is what it looked like last time I showed it to you in the whip parade. And this is where I got to. So I'm stitching this on a 32 count Lugana. It's a solo die from Silk Weaver, so you can't get the color, but it's kind of like a blue gray. Excuse me, frog in my throat. It's a blue gray. There are these sort of pooling colors here, but the light is making them pull out even more. They're not that apparent in person. At first I thought there was something on my fabric. So some of the things I worked on is I think I brought this down. I put his little pom-pom on his hat. I know I've stitched some of the black in here, well, dark brown. And it's looking good. And this is also over-dyed floss conversion. So very cute. I started this one, I think it was July of last year. The next thing I worked on is the Hometown Cell, also from Teresa Kogut. It's a mystery pattern, and so we don't know what all the pieces are going to look like, but it's going to run for 2 years. And we have 2 months released, and the third portion was just released today, actually. So this is where I am. This is what it looked like when you saw it last. Get it. This is on 40 count Up in the Attic by Fox and Rabbit. And I have a counting error, and I'm trying to decide how big of an issue it is. So here, this portion is part of the road that comes over, and I had stopped it here because of where the chimney to the house below needed to go. But the road, this house is supposed to be 3 stitches higher. I counted off of this when really I should have counted further up. But I've put in this whole building for the most part, except for the roof and this little fill-in of the sign, and I don't really want to move it. So I have 2 options that I'm considering. One is shortening, making this building down here shorter by 3 rows, and I think I've seen a way to do that, but because I don't have the whole picture of the building, I can't quite make that determination yet on how that would work for everything else around it. Or I can bring this building up here 3 stitches higher and just cover the road. But I do kind of want to know what's happening sort of over here to make that determination. So I'm not going to stitch this until I either know what's over here or under here. So I'm going to have a big hole in the middle of my project while I try to figure it out. But I'd much rather do that than frog this whole thing, especially on 40 count. And I've buried all my threads, and I'm just not interested in doing that. So there's a couple things left to do in this portion. I have to fill in this roof. I have to put on the roof here. There's another lamp post, and then the lamp post has a little light in it that I need to fill in. And then this portion, I think it's this part that was released today, and we have a month to stitch that. And then, yeah, so it'll be a couple of months before I can solve this problem that I've created for myself, but I'm trying to let it be. A lot of fun to stitch this one. I am doing the called for colors. Let me just say that real quickly. But I did stitch this in an over dyed instead of the DMC. So I stitched this in Ye Old Gold by Classic Colorworks. So that's this one here. And then this building called for, I think it was 221. Right? Yeah, 221, and I'm stitching it in Manor Red from Classic Colorworks. So just to give it a little bit of variegation and interest. And it's really lovely. I'm enjoying it a lot. Okay, the next thing I worked on, and actually what I've been working on today, is the Pilgrim by Long Dog Samplers. This is what it looks like when it's done. And this is what it looked like last time you saw it. And this is what it looks like now. So I'm stitching this on a 32 count silk weaver. I think it was called ice blue or antique blue. I don't have the name of the fabric, I'm sorry. It's really hard to get silk weaver fabric. You can do it, but I would just look for this color. It's kind of like a seafoam green. And I'm stitching this in, oh, is it Gentle Arts? Hang on, I forgot. Yeah, Gentle Arts Deep Sea is the variegated blue. Okay, and then the other floss is Sulky. And the first one, oops. The deer is in this color, which is 4020. So that's a variegated floss. So that's, oops, this one here. And then as I was going, I was like, I kind of want to put other color in rather than just this variegated. So I kind of pulled out some of the tones. And I've added 1549 and 0521. So that's my gentleman and my lady over here. And then I will add, in addition, still potentially could change my mind, I'll add these ones. Let's see if I can hold them in the project. So some of my animals and things, the birds and other animals, are going to be in these colors just to bring it out. But then all of the background buildings, roads will be in this variegated deep sea. It's gorgeous. I didn't start this on Leap Day for the Long Dog Leap Year sale, but I did make a promise to myself to finish it within 4 years, because this is a very old project for me. I've been working on this one since January 2021, so it's been a while. And so I figured that if I stitch 250 stitches a week, I'll be able to finish this by Leap Day of 2028. And that's really doable for me. And so far I've been meeting that. So that is my long dog. Let me just put all of these sulkies away so they don't roll away. Okay. The next thing I worked on is my, whoops, winter cat sampler. I'm gonna pause you because the recycling is here, so give me just a second. Okay, I'm back. If the camera angle changed, it's because I had to change out my ring light situation. Anyway, so I was telling you that the next thing I worked on was my winter cat sampler, which looks like this when it's done. It's by Cooler Designs, and last time I showed it to you, it looked like this. I've put quite a bit of work into this, some of which you might not be able to see, though for the most part you should. This was called for Whip Go for this month. So my Whip Go is 10 days or 1,000 stitches. And so I've put in quite a bit of this greenery and started the ribbon down here. And I've also finished up the back stitching and everything here in the wreath except for this one portion. I started adding the letters, maybe I can open this up. Tells you nothing. You can see there's a T here. There is some letters, but you probably can't see them. Oh, there they are. Amaryllis. This one says Aster. Yeah, I think it looks gorgeous. Let me move my... These are Smart and Cool magnet cable tie holders. They work really, really well. They're very strong. You can get them on Amazon. So I still have another 250 stitches to put into this before the month is over. So I'll continue to bring this down. It looks so good. Even without the back stitching, I think, especially this topiary looks really good, and the cat. It's beautiful. Okay. So the next thing I worked on is my Charlotte Warrington, which was an exclusive kit from Homespun Sampler, which is a Facebook group. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore. It may be released again, but this is from Needlework Press. And this is also a SAL to finish within 2 years. So I've been working on it pretty diligently. The first 2 pages, which takes us basically, it's here and here, are due at the end of March. And I have finished page 1, which is the border over here, and half of this plant, these flowers. And this is the edge of page 2, so I still have that tree and the birds, which are over 1. These little antennae are over 1. Actually, there's a part here from page 1 that I haven't done yet, which is like a little leaf heart thing. This, last time you saw it, it looked like this. I'm stitching this on 32 count Mason linen and sewing box, and I am making some color changes. I'm basically either deepening the tones or sort of getting rid of anything that was a little too primary colored, other than the red. So for instance, this orange here is in its ginger snap now. It was Weeks Dye Work Carrot. And I can kind of show you the changes I made actually. You've got time, right? Let me just pull out the original flosses. So I bought this as the kit, and the kit came from Colorado Cross Stitcher, which it was very quick. So these are all of the colors that I've taken out, and essentially I took them out because I just wanted to deepen the tones a little bit. So, oh, I've got 2 curries there, which yes, I took out the curry. The curry was the first to go. I'm not a yellow person. I think that's part of it, is yellow is just not really my jam. So let's go through what I've changed. First, the yellow of curry. I changed to wheat fields. I'll show you on the project here. Maybe that'll be easier. So this is the curry, and this is the wheat fields. And the curry is anywhere you see sort of this golden color of the flowers, and anywhere in these flower stems or the center of flowers, I changed it out for the wheat fields. I also changed out this flower here, and like the outline of this flower was also supposed to be curry. And I changed it for beige. I'm a professional, can you tell? Okay, And so this is the biggest change really I think I made, is that this yellow or this white line in here between the green and the red was also supposed to be curry. And I just couldn't. I couldn't even do it in the wheat fields. I just didn't want to do it. So I've changed it for this beige. So that's in here, it's over here. So that was the first change I made. The next one was taking out the carrot, and I replaced that with ginger snap. Just a more richly deep orange that's here in this flower. I also changed out the blue. So this is Blue Coat Blue. That was what was called for here in this flower. And I changed it to Blue Suede. So same, oh, this is closest, I think. It's just it's deeper, a little bit more gray tone. I switched out this one here. So in this flower, I'm trying to remember where else it was. I think that might be it. It might just be in this flower. It was originally supposed to be this Madison Rose, and I switched it for Wood Rose from Gentle Art. A little bit more yellow toned to kind of go with the fabric, a little less sort of pastel colored. This is Sage, which is a little two-tone on tone. I haven't replaced it yet, but I will. And some of what I'm thinking of is Straw Hat. So I have it kind of pulled out. This goes in the woman's dress. So that's called for here in the center of the dress, but I want it to look stitched. So I'm thinking of changing it out for this Straw Hat, which is similar, but it's got enough tone variation in the fabric, I think. And then lastly, this hasn't come up yet, which is this moss color. Has it come up? No, not yet. Or has it? No, I'm forgetting. Oh no, it has. So that was supposed to be here around the outside of this butterfly's body. And I made it bayberry. Still variegated, but kind of pulling in some of the blue tones, and the green is still a yellow green, but not quite as vibrant. And I love the original colors. I really do. I think they're playful. They're very true to the back of the piece. You know, there's nothing wrong with these colors. And a lot of people are stitching them this way. But I have plans to modify this sampler even further. I am going to change out the verse here for a song that is my husband and I's song, and this is going to be our wedding sampler because it's big and requires patience, and you know, I think it's a fitting testament to our marriage. And I just want to show you how big on 32 count this sampler is going to be, because I don't think you quite get the scale of it. But when we say it's a BAP, which if you're new to Flosstube means big, cover little ears, ass project, or big awesome project, that red at the top is the center. Sorry for the wrinkles, but and it goes and it goes, and it has a 2-inch border. So I think it's a good wedding sampler. I think it's good. I'd like to finish it slightly before the sale ends. Our wedding anniversary for 15 years will be December 2025. And I think that'd be nice. That's my goal. We'll see what happens. Okay. There was a question which I can try to answer, but I think I need a little bit of preparation to do it. So let me finish. I'll show you my last whip and then I'll talk about how I do over 1 stitching on 40 count. The last whip I worked on is Cat Tapestry by Tiny Modernist. It looks like this. It's supposed to look like this. Mine looks, my cats look completely different. I am stitching this on a 40 count Fiber on a Whim Cypress. Sorry, just trying to tighten the fabric up. Last time you saw it, it looked like this, and this is what it looks like now. So I'm almost done with Kelly. This is my cat Finian. I think last time I was telling you about his little primordial pooch down here. I've made it a little bit bigger. I put some stitches in this flower. I've worked on his feet. I think that's it. I haven't done a lot of work on this, but I did touch it, so. I love this pattern. I think it's gorgeous, and I can't wait to get it finished and memorialized for our cats. So let me pause. I will grab my my whip that I have 40 count 1/1, and I'll talk a little bit about how I do it. So 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So when I was showing the whip parade, I had a question about how I do over 1 half cross on 40 count, and if there was a lot of slippage. And yeah, sometimes there is. So it's these 2 motifs here that are over 1. Maybe if I hide my face, it'll focus. It's this one and this one. And the question was, you know, because, you know, so if you haven't done over 1 half cross, what that means is you do only one leg of the stitch, and you're doing it over one thread rather than 2, which is typical. And in doing so, you can get, the floss can slip underneath the linen thread that's running vertically. And so my biggest piece of advice for doing that is really tension. If you pull really tightly, that thread is going to slip underneath the vertical thread, and you won't see that you've even made a stitch. It'll become almost completely invisible except for like a little dot at the bottom or the top, depending on how you draw your thread. So my advice is such. If you are making your X's, I need a needle. Okay. Oop, that's 2 needles. I only need 1. So if you're making your, I'm going to do it on a big scale, so just bear with me. So let's say you start in a bottom corner and you're coming up here, and that your typical method is to do it bottom leg first for half cross, which is what I do. It's too much brain power to go top leg. So I do bottom leg only for my half cross. If you're starting in the bottom left and going to the upper right, and then you come down to bottom left and go upper right, if you pull too tightly, the thread that's in this leg is gonna go and be sucked right underneath, because basically you're only wrapping around 1 vertical thread. And it's gonna look like you could do like a little spiral around it, which is what you don't want to do. So there's two things you could do. One is when you go from the bottom left to the top right, if you go back down to the bottom left, do not pull tightly. Pull very gently and cinch it up slowly so that it still is laying and it lays flat and it lays nice, but not so tight that you start to see the torque of that stitch. Or if you're starting in the bottom left and you go to the upper right, the next stitch you do, go upper right to bottom left. And then the next stitch would be bottom left to bottom left to upper right to upper right to bottom left. So you're basically making like kind of a zigzag. And what that does is it gives you a stitch on the back that's horizontal across this vertical thread. I really hope that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it. So it'd be bottom left to upper right. You cross all the way over. You're crossing over one hole and one vertical thread to the next hole, and then going back down so that there's a thread that's always carried in the back that's horizontal. Because otherwise, if you're just doing it the Dutch method of like bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right, your thread in the back is vertical, the same, and it's running the same way as the thread of the fiber of the fabric that you're trying to cover. And so there's no stability in the back. Now, I do mine the tensioning method. I pull very carefully, and as you start to fill in stitches, it's less tedious and time consuming because there's more stuff there that is causing friction, and I find it's a little easier. But those first couple of stitches in that first row, let's say, they are a little finicky because you can start to get some slippage. I'll show you my back. I don't know if it'll focus on it or not because it is really small. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to see it. I was going to show you, you can kind of see it. If you can see the ridges, 1 ridge, 2 ridge, 3 ridge, those ridges are caused from doing rows that are all facing in one direction. So I go boop, 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 and then I come back and go doot, 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 doot. And I make those noises while I'm doing it. Okay, so I wish it would focus a little bit better. If I was a professional, I'd have one of those fancy cameras, but I've just got my phone. I can take some pictures. If I've taken some pictures and they turn out good, I'll put them here. And maybe I'll have put them in even while I was talking to kind of show you what the stitches look like, to show you that I do the Dutch method. I would say some people don't like doing the bottom leg of the stitch as they're over one because it looks different than your other cross stitch, right? Because in your other cross stitch, you do a bottom leg and a top leg. But in this, if you're only doing a bottom leg, like it can look a little different. I find that at this, you can't tell. You can't tell me that. You can see that these stitches are facing this way and the top of the other stitches are facing this way. So I hope that was helpful. I am not a member of the Embroidery Guild of America, and I have never taught cross stitch, so this may or may not have been clear, but it is how I do it. So I'm not an expert, but I do enjoy teaching. So if there's anything else you'd like to know about my method or how I stitch or what I'm doing while I'm stitching or anything like that, I'm always happy to help and talk about it. And that's how we can help each other, because I'm sure there's other people. So if you have any advice for how you do over one, look back at my previous video and you can put a comment on the comment of the person who posted. Apologies, I didn't write down your name. Or you can put those comments here and we can talk about if somebody else has a different method for over one. I'm so glad I was able to film without it being like 6 months. And really welcome to all of you who are new, and welcome back everyone who's come back. I'm so happy to be here. and I look forward to filming again in another week or so. And I hope you guys are finding joy in every stitch, and take care, and I'll talk soon. Bye everyone.